Let's move on with our validation handler. After we can process the posted data from our new HTML form content, the adapter will be complete. We create a new typed agent. So this time it is CAPTCHA validate handler, and this handler validates reCAPTCHA and then validates DNN CAPTCHA accordingly. Remember, this is our plan. Okay, this time we're looking for a control event. We'll attach the handler during the initialization step, which is the default setting, and that's the user validated event. We've got one parameter, and that's the private key. So let's name that reCAPTCHA private key. And let's actually enter the value. So it's a string, wanted instance, and here's the private key. Now about the actions. In order to keep things clear, we'll create a pair of grouping action sequences of type multiple action provider. So first we'll have validate reCAPTCHA, which retrieves the post parameters, calls the Google validation API, and processes the result. And then we have validate DNN CAPTCHA, which retrieves the valid response for the native CAPTCHA and invokes the validation method with the corresponding value. And remember, we have also to prevent an infinite loop with a flag. So first, let's address reCAPTCHA. Okay, back to the documentation. We've got the signature of an API method. But first, we want to retrieve the challenge and response from the posted data. The documentation gives us the name of those fields. We can retrieve them from the HTTP context. Let's define a variable to the corresponding flee expression. So that's get reCAPTCHA challenge from posted data. So this is going to be the name of our variable, whereas this was the name of the action. So you have not to confuse both. It is a string, and we can use the expression builder again. As it is available in the HTTP context, starting from the action context will be advised. So we're looking for the DNN context, which is a submember of the action context, and it is a common hub to DNN, ASP.NET, and HTTP contextual information. From here, we can access the HTTP context submember, and then we'll use the form property. Actually, it's in the requests, and then the form. to get access to those fields. So let's just insert that, and we invoke that property with the name provided by Google. Right. We can do a simple copy to get the response field. And we simply replace the data. Okay, change the name of the action. I change the name of the variable, and then the field from the Google documentation. Right. So let's now make the Google API call. For that, we need a web action. So that's reCAPTCHA API call. We follow the instructions given on that page. Note that by inserting important information in the description, I will make it easier to later maintain and update our agent, especially if I'm not the one who will be maintaining it. I can copy-paste the string as a constant string here, but again, could be an expression, for instance, something like that would be valid. Then we indicate that the request is a post and that the parameters are going to be part of the posted data. Now about the parameters. So we've got private key, and using the expression builder that resolves to reCAPTCHA private key. And then we have remote IP, we'll use the DNN context again. And we'll use the toString method. Okay. Then we've got challenge. And we'll use the expression builder again. So that's reCAPTCHA challenge. And then we've got response. And that will be reCAPTCHA response. Okay, let's see what's going on now. We can activate logs in the HTTP request settings. Save and test. Okay, I do a wrong try, and then hopefully a right one. Not sure about this one. Okay. Not that I don't expect a validation at this point, but 2 events logged instead. So let's check our event log. I've got 2 events, but not that in order for Portal Keeper to properly save event logs, you need to enable the debug info log type, which is disabled by default. I've enabled it there. Okay, let's look at our events. So we've got parameters passed and the responses from Google. And it looks like the API is properly hooked. For more evidences, you could also generate a much more detailed step-by-step performance log. And this is at the agent level. And you can generate dumps of the local variables. And you also have interesting technical settings at the level of the action. For instance, you could attach and break a debugger at the start of the action run if detailed logs and dumps leave you stuck with a difficult issue. You could also run that specific action asynchronously in a queue based on a smart thread pool. Okay, let's remove logging and move on from there. Just for more simplicity, we will extract a variable from the Google result, and it's going to be a Boolean one. Let's call it reCAPTCHA is valid. And we'll build it from our reCAPTCHA request result, and we'll use the contains string method. And from our log viewer, we'll just look for the true keyword. Okay, let's save that. Now we've got our reCAPTCHA validation sorted, so we need to move on with the DNN validation. Eventually we want to call the validate method, so that will be an object action. And it will be over a CAPTCHA control object. The adapted control is available through the adapter and then adapted control submember. And you can see we know it is a CAPTCHA control member. We find the method and then we prepare the parameters. But now we need an actual valid DNN CAPTCHA response, not simply the Boolean variable we just created from the reCAPTCHA response. Let's define a new variable. I'll name it DNN CAPTCHA answer, but we need to create it first. So let's define it here. And it needs to be defined before the call to the validate method. So that's DNN CAPTCHA answer. This is the actual correct response. to the native challenge. And sorry, this is the name of the variable and this is the name of the action. Right. This is going to be a conditional action because we got two cases, either right or wrong. So we'll use a dynamic condition using the same expressions that we've been using. And so the condition is that reCAPTCHA was validated, and we have the variable which holds the answer from the previous step. And this is going to be a string. Okay, now what's the valid response? Remember the underscore CAPTCHA text from an earlier analysis. Let's go for it. So adapter would be our entry point, and then adapted control. Now we have a problem because it is a private field, so we can't access it from here. Fortunately, Free gives us a practical workaround through the same concept of an expression owner. Let's switch to an advanced expression. You can learn more about the concept of an expression owner on the reference website. By overriding the default context expression owner, I can specify a new member access level. And for our new owner, I will target the exact expression that just failed us. So this is adapter, adapted control. Now, because our expression owner expression cannot be evaluated at design time, I need to indicate its new type if I want to use the expression builder. But remember, it is optional if you know your variable and member names. So back to my expression builder. The type looks good, selecting my new expression owner. And now the field is available. The alternate action is easier because we'll just output an empty string. For simplicity, I will just copy the original declaration and then I remove the condition. So that's define DNN captcha answer to an empty string, and this is an arbitrary wrong answer, and I remove the conditional. And here is an empty string. Or actually, better is just an empty instance, because then we don't need to evaluate anything. Okay. Finally, we have to remember dealing with the infinite loop. At this stage, testing the current agent would actually crash the web server's application pool with a Stack Overflow exception, so we'll not do that. Let's signal the first pass with a simple flag in the HTTP context. So that would be an object action, and it needs to be inserted before the call. Okay, that's an action to signal the first pass. So we'll put a flag in the HTTP context to signal that we passed here once already. We'll target our DNN context. And this is the target object. Oops, this is where I want it. So now about the action, I want to set a property, and this is going to be the item property. The value is going to be anything, a simple true boolean flag will do. But the key is important. Let's prepare the key. We call that reCAPTCHA validated already. Right. So we've got our action. And accordingly, let's add an initial condition on our validation agent to test if we went there once. So this is going to be a dynamic expression. Is it the first pass? We test if a flag was previously inserted in the HTTP context. And actually, it's a negative condition because we don't want it to be there. So it's just the same property we're looking for. That would be DNN context. And then items, contains key. And I just copied the name we gave to that flag key. And remember, I could add a not there, but I can also negate the condition here. Okay, we save that. And let's test again. Maybe we're getting there. Et voilà. Well, it wasn't an easy journey, but we made it. And we overviewed a bunch of core features of our module. So hopefully you can apply that approach to a wide range of other topics. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope you enjoyed it and that you will start exploring and building agents of your own soon. By the end of that release cycle, we'll make another detailed tutorial to cover web services and user bots. If you have any question, you can send an email to our support team, and please feel free to contribute discussions, issues, and hopefully some code to the CodePlex online project. Bye.